Hello, and welcome to some Donkus show. I'm David Ford. This is
Michael Ball.
And to my right,
Kyle Ball.
Today, we're gonna do some lists we have. We're just gonna roll a D6 and a D20 to decide what we talk about. Thought we might just change it up a little bit. We're not sure how long we're gonna go, but we're gonna go as long as it's fun, I guess. So, Mike, if you want to get us rolling on that D6?
Alright. It is you, Kyle.
Okay, so now, for my list,
Number 3.
number 3 is My Immortal.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Well, why don't you explain what My Immortal is, Kyle?
Okay, so first off, My Immortal is a pretty famous internet fan fiction written by a girl who I believe at the time was 13, and it's basically her going to Hogwarts with Harry Potter and the crew.
Yeah, it's like as he said, it's an infamous fan fiction written by a 13-year-old girl. However, there is some argument on the internet whether it was written like for real or if she was just like totally trolling people. But considering just like the sheer number of websites she had backing up like her craziness, like it would have had to be one of the most involved trollings ever.
Wait, so people actually backed her up and saying it was like a legitimate fan fiction?
Well, people were researching her because they wanted to see if it was a troll or not, and she had like set up numerous like sites around the internet about herself.
Oh my god.
So, as Kyle said,
okay, just real quick, Crookshanks is not a spell.
no,
That's all I'm gonna say.
you're totally wrong on that.
Anyways, to go a little more in depth, one, she Mary Sues herself into it.
Oh my god.
And what should be explained is she is very gothic, at least at this point in her life. And so,
But like really weird goth, like Hot Topic style goth.
yeah, and every character in Harry Potter she's reinvented to be gothic, and there's just the detail in which she describes all the outfits is immense and happens all over the place.
At the top of almost every chapter, there's like a full paragraph of what she's wearing, and it's always like the same thing, just
Different color
different.
and slightly different cut. Before we get any further, we should maybe mention what a Mary Sue is, because that's kind of a special, like, more specialized fan fiction term.
Right.
So for all y'all who don't read fan fiction very much, what a Mary Sue is that's a term for a self-insertion author character. So, it like most fan fiction terms has its origins in Star Trek fan fiction with like a fairly infamous story about Mary Sue Picard, Captain Picard's adopted niece or nephew, I forget which one it is, but she's like a 10-year-old girl who's smarter than the entire crew of the Enterprise and is constantly saving their bacon. And normally you can tell who a Mary Sue is because it'll be a character that's introduced into an existing property and who is inexplicably perfect, and like all the characters just love them unconditionally.
Looking at you, Shadow the Hedgehog. Not really.
So, like, if you were a Mary Sue in the Star Wars universe, you would be the best Jedi, you'd be more intelligent than Yoda, you could, like, beat the crap out of Darth Vader just by looking at him. You would know every race, everyone be
awesome. Your friend, and you'd probably end up romancing one of the main characters.
Whichever was your favorite.
Yeah, so basically Mary Sue is a method for the writer of a fanfiction to insert themselves into a property and completely take over. And in this case, the Mary Sue is
oh man, what is her full name? Ebony?
N-O-B.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's Ebony Dementia Raven Way, because, she's totally into Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance. So, as David said, it's N-O-B, because in addition to just being like fantastically horrible in like
so many ways.
In so many ways. she has like zero skills in spelling or grammar. So the names of the characters change from sentence to sentence almost, and so her name is theoretically Ebony, but most of the time she just spells it N-A-B.
Yeah, I mean, you have characters like Hagrid, who is also spelled Hairgrid, and Hargrid.
And Hargid.
Hargid. There is Dumbledore, also known as Dumbledore, and... Oh,
I think Voldemort's pretty spot on most of the time.
He's also Voldemort.
Oh, that's
or
right, Voldy.
Volsamort.
Or Volsamort.
By the way, she they got to a they also like we said, she really likes My Chemical Romance and Good Charlotte, and
they play in Hogsmeade all the time apparently.
Yeah, so Good Charlotte and My Chemical Romance are constantly being referenced. And there's one part where Voldemort and the Death Eaters disguise themselves.
No, Death Dealers.
No, well, that's what I was going to. They disguise themselves as members of My Chemical Romance who attack Ebony and her friends. Although they are introduced as Voldemort and the Death Dealers, which I think would be a pretty awesome name for a band. Anyway.
Oh, okay, and to also describe this being stereotypically gothic and loving evil. She's from the Slytherin house, and also Harry Potter, who has become a vampire and goes by the name Vampire Potter, is part of the Slytherin house.
Because he became a Satanist. Because all the main characters have turned into Satanists, and when you become a Satanist, you have to join Slytherin.
So, let's see, we also, Draco keeps the name Draco, but Hermione Granger's new name is Bloody Mary...
No, it's B''
Bloody Mary Smith, because her real last name is Smith.
And her parents are vampires.
And then there's Ron, who has black hair now with blue dyed tips, and his name is...
Diabolo.
Yeah, we're thinking it's Diablo.
It's probably supposed to be Diablo, but with her master of spelling, it's Diabolo.
Oh my God.
And he's part of Slytherin, and then there's Dracula, or Dracola, as she spells, who is actually Neville.
Or as she says, Navel.
And his parents are vampires, and he's part of Slytherin.
So basically, all the former goodies in Harry Potter are now crazy evil goth people who are members of Slytherin.
Oh, don't forget that Hairgrid is a student and a Satanist.
Yes, as Hairgrid is quick to point out when he saves Ebony and Darko after they have been having sex in the Forbidden Forest. He is both a student and a Satanist.
Oh yeah. I think my favorite part is when Draco puts his thingy in her...
You know what.
And
they did it.
Dumbledore comes out of nowhere and is like, "What the fuck are you doing, you motherfuckers?"
Yeah.
And that's literally how he says it.
Yeah, and in it, when she's not going and describing what clothes she or her friends are wearing.
Oh my God.
Or when they are going to various My Chemical Romance or Good Charlotte concerts, she's hanging out at Hogwarts talking about all the stupid preps.
Yeah, she hates preps.
Including Dumbledore, who I guess partway through decides to become a goth also.
But he's a poser goth.
Oh, yeah, and he has a long black bread.
She has this, intense hatred for posers. I don't even know what she means by posers, considering her Hot Topic, level of clothing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, she's a 13-year-old girl, so...
Yeah.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with 13-year-old girls, but, just...
Those damn 13-year-olds.
Oh, please. It's just 13-year-olds in general are pretty just, self-centered and have their own, problems, which they think are, enormously important, but, which any adult would know are, not really that important in the big scheme of things. But for her, she feels that, pointing out posers and preps and how shitty they are is, a totally worthwhile thing.
Yeah, also, a reminder again, this is called My Immortal, and it's 46 chapters, I believe?
Yes,
I've
although several of the early chapters are only, 3 paragraphs long. So that's kind of really misleading.
Yeah, the first chapter, by the way, is literally a description of what she's wearing and 3 sentences that are spoken between her and Draco, and that is chapter 1.
Oh, and Draco's the biggest, whiniest thing ever.
And one of the other
Like
interesting...
super.
It's super. And one of the other amazing things about this fanfiction is that characters will die, and then they will be totally fine in the next chapter with no explanation. There's one part where Draco commits suicide, but then you find out that in fact he is in bondage to Voldemort.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, another great thing, she loves to go as evil and dark and, like, gothic as possible. And one great scene is when she slits her own wrists so she can drink the blood, but she pours it into the most evil cereal there is, Count Chocula.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, actually no, Count Chocula is totally the serial choice for real gods.
That's because it as a vampire.
Yeah.
Back to my earlier statement about Crookshanks. So, she decides that her character is gonna fight Voldemort. Or is it Voldemort at this point?
I think it is Voldemort because her friend was spell checking for her.
Well,
at
anyway,
this point.
so she's like, I'm gonna fight Voldemort, and Voldemort shoots Alakadabra or something at her. Not even like the actual spell. Anyway, and she shouts back, Crookshanks! Which is not Hermione's, I'm sorry, Bloody Mary's cat.
It's apparently some form of weird spell.
And it defeats Voldemort.
And oh my god, then there's just other really strange, like, as we said, like all the major characters have just gone through like insane character assassination. But then, even though she's like really fond of Slytherin, she apparently hates Snape.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
she
does.
calls him like Snap or Snake several times.
Yeah, Professor Snap is like the most common one.
Professor Snap. Anyway, there was one part where she had Snap and Lupin having sex in the hallway in the middle of school while Dobby was watching them.
And crying.
Yeah, what the heck was that about?
The story is absolutely insane.
And it gets harder and harder to follow the longer you go.
I don't even know what the main plot is, other than let's go watch My Chemical Romance and Good Charlotte.
oh
Like,
yeah.
Like, I don't even know what the plot is.
Then also, there's other really baffling, like, errors, like, she had Mr. Norris show up.
And Mrs. Filch.
It was like, I mean, so for those few of you who, don't know Harry Potter, the evil groundskeeper at, Hogwarts is a dude named, Filch, and he has a cat named Mrs. Norris. But for some reason in this, the groundskeeper is Mrs. Norris and the cat's name is Filch. So, it's one of these things where it's just kind of confusing as to what was going through this girl's head when she wrote this. In any event, it's really just absolute insanity to read, and it's pretty funny. But also, something that we recommend is you can find various dramatic readings of it on YouTube. And the story itself is really funny, but it's also, even crazier when you hear someone else read it out loud to you. So, yeah.
And do you want to choose a new topic?
Do any of y'all have anything more to say about My Immortal?
God. There's not enough to say. Like that,
Yeah.
I've only heard up to the first 17 chapters, I think.
Okay.
Is where I got, and I was losing my shit. I was like, this is too much. Like,
By the way, I'm gonna recommend a certain dramatic reading on YouTube. The guy only did the first 23 chapters, and it was, he's like the best from what we've found, but, he is...
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to this dude, because he did, like, a really cool job.
Yeah, it's Tepogo, as in Tehpogo. He does an amazing job, but like I said, he only does up to chapter 23, but I guarantee you it's enough. Like, those last few chapters, her story has gotten so insane that I don't even know what was happening anymore at all. It was just so riddled with every kind of problem in a story. It's just almost impossible to follow at that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, cool. So that's My Immortal.
That's
We
My Immortal.
we recommend it. It's
I recommend it if you really want to laugh at somebody else's like misfortune. I'm sorry, it's true.
Yeah, I mean you do kind of get into like the Ed Wood level, like material where it's funny because someone is like trying real hard and falling on the face. So, it's kind of mean spirited to laugh at, but also it's almost like if you're putting something out there,
especially on the internet.
Yeah, on the internet, you're kind of like wanting it to be consumed by other people. So,
but the nice thing is we can hope she's gotten better because she was 13 when she wrote this.
Yeah.
So there's some hope there that she didn't write Star Wars Episode 1.
Oh! Okay.
On to topic 2.
Alright, Mike, roll that dice.
Alright, it is you.
Okay. Alright, here we go.
Alright.
14. Dubstep.
Oh, man.
Oh.
Okay.
So where do you guys stand on dubstep?
See, this is one of these weird internet phenomenon that I'm sure that dubstep has gone, it's not just an internet thing, but it kind of seemed to me just like dance music. But
It is just dance music. Like people, okay. Mike, you finish your thing before I go.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I don't really know anything about like what differentiates it from like just regular dance hall music to like whatever. So, why don't you just talk to us about this?
Okay, so my feelings on dubstep, which a lot of people usually agree with me, are when you're doing this piece on the computer, because you do dubstep on the computer, there's a certain synth like beat that you go with for dubstep. You drop it at a certain octave or whatever.
Okay.
I don't even know what it's called, but you have a certain drop. It's called the drop. But like that's just a component of the song. Whereas if you were like playing classical music and there's all of a sudden like a really strong like chords piece, it's not called chord step. No,
Right.
it's part of the song. Dubstep's whole thing, it doesn't deserve its own genre. It's just a part of the song. It's its own sort of instrument in a way, if that makes sense. Like,
Right.
you understand what
Yeah.
I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't deserve its own genre when it's just a piece of the music.
Right.
It's still dance music. Get over it.
Okay, so you're coming out on the dubstep should not be classified as a type of music. It
No.
should just be like a descriptor.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's awesome. It's something, not necessarily super new, but it's like, because of the internet, it's so vast and wide and it's reached all the sources of genres and stuff.
Yeah.
So, my feelings on it, I don't necessarily have anything against it, but at the same time I do, just because I have my friend David here and my friend Dan, who both are big fans of it. And not to say that any of it is necessarily bad, but because it's just one little addition that is essentially added in, it basically means you can modify a lot of songs and turn them into quote-unquote dubstep. And they play a lot of it, and generally, with a lot of type of music, there's the good and the bad, and so they both find the good, and then they play it almost to death as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, so your issue with the whole like dubstep phenomenon isn't anything specifically about the music. It's more about
The exposure,
the
overexposure.
overexposure. Well, I think that is that's something that that's annoying, but that.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have anything against any of the music, excluding one song, but really, it's just nice. That's basically just the overexposure to it. That's my whole beef with it.
Okay.
But otherwise, I think it's an interesting way to go, and yeah, it's basically dance music that just has a certain aspect to it. Yeah.
Anyway, dubstep was mainly put on my list because I couldn't think of 20 items. so
Okay,
Mike, you go ahead and roll.
well, tell us, what are some dubstep, like, do you have any particular performers or creators that you like to?
I really just like
Do some-
user-generated stuff. Like, I oftentimes go on YouTube and I look for mixes a lot, and usually mixes will have like a really good dubstep in there. mixes as in like dance music, like a lot of drum and bass. I really like drum and bass, and I think that combined with the dubstep beat is really solid, really awesome. And well, DJ Fresh is really my favorite DJ, but he doesn't really go into the dubstep like way of things very much. I kind of like, I don't know, like I said, I like more user created stuff. There's not any real artists that I particularly like.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, do either you have anything to add to this?
Conclude?
No, I think I'm pretty solid on it.
All right.
Like I said, I just added that because I needed to get a 20.
You didn't need to. All right, it's you again.
All right.
I mean,
no,
it's
it's me.
David.
Oh, it's David. Yeah.
Alright. 16. God damn it. Oh, Hunger Games.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. I saw this the other day, not for the first time, but again, and I'd forgotten how much I really enjoyed the movie. And I kind of read like half the first book and listened to it on audio tape, and I mean, it wasn't like the scene for scene, but I thought it did a good job.
Yeah.
And I read the wiki on it, so I know what happens and everything, but
Okay.
I thought Hunger Games was like really awesome, kind of a brutal aspect.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it, as far as, it did have like an interesting idea. I mean, you know, a lot of people were really, when it came out, were really quick to make comparisons to Battle Royale, which on the surface of it has like a reasonably similar, idea behind it, which is basically, young people fighting each other in basically a
Arena.
Yeah, and
It was like an island, right?
Yeah, and basically like a deathmatch arena that's also being televised.
I know this is in the second Hunger Games movie, but in Battle Royale, what I really liked was they had like zones that you couldn't go in because you would like die.
Yeah. In Battle Royale, it took place on an island, and they set the island into grids, and every hour one of the grids would become off limits, and if anyone was within that grid, they would all the players were equipped with basically a Running Man style collar on them, so if they entered one of the forbidden zones, their heads would explode.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this is a spoiler, but really not the biggest one. But in the second Hunger Games book, which I don't actually remember,
Catching Fire.
The third one's Mockingjay. Anyways, in Catching Fire, there are 12 zones, and every hour it goes from one to the next, and if you're caught in that zone, you will die.
Yeah.
So,
you know, I mean, like I said, there are some obvious similarities in there, but really when it's all said and done, just saying that, like, Hunger Games is just a ripoff of Battle Royale, which is what that was kind of like the cool thing to do on the internet, was to prove that you're in the know and to just dismiss it as, you know, just like a ripoff, but, like, really, you know, that's Battle Royale or like Hunger Games really didn't exactly have the most original idea. I mean, like I said, I mentioned Running Man, which predates both of those, that had effectively the same deal, where it was like a broadcasted
survival show.
That was with Schwarzenegger, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it did have
was.
Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah, that was Eyes to See You, right?
No, it's Sub-Zero. Now you're just Zero.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
that had the evil hockey player Sub-Zero.
Ice to See You is actually from The Simpsons with Wolfgang Castle when they're making fun of Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the yeah. So, like I said, like with Hunger Games, with any idea, with any like high concept idea like Battle Royale / Hunger Games, it all comes down to execution, really. And I haven't read the Hunger Game book, but I did enjoy the movie, actually. I thought it was like pretty well put together. Although I kind of didn't really understand why it was called the Hunger Games, just because
everyone looked so well fed.
Everyone looked really well fed in it. So, I mean, the only hunger that seemed to be present was in that really shit heap, like 1930s, like Great Depression era, like town at the beginning of the movie.
It was called The Hunger Pains, maybe.
I mean, the movie,
Slightly
the opening scene where it showed whatever district the main character was from, like
12?
12, District 12, like it was really effective. Like I said, it really looked like the Great Depression kinda, and and it just really got across just kind of the how put upon and how just under the system all the people were in that, and just the general desperation. And I thought that was really effective, especially when they got to the first zone, or
the major city.
The major city, where it was the exact opposite and everyone was really brightly dressed, and it was just high technology and everything.
Those people are supposed to be like well fed and
stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand that the people in the main city are supposed to be like the guys who are using all the resources taken and produced in the outer zones. So.
Each district is designed for specifically one or two things. Like there's one district that's near the water and they get pearls and dyes and they get fish. There's one that, is in a mountain that's rich with minerals. There's District 13, which was destroyed and is actually why all the districts tried to wage war on the major city. The major city just flat out destroyed District 13, and then as a reminder to that, every year they make them do the Hunger Games, and that colony or district, I think, was actually just like graphite. Is what they mined.
So it's also interesting that you mentioned that it's an annual thing, because I'd read that one of the inspirations that the author had when she was putting it together was the story of Theseus, which, for those of you who aren't like totally down with your Greek mythology, that's the whole Minotaur story, where every year, the Athenians, it was like every 5 years, I think, the Athenians had to send 12 boys and 12 girls to Crete so that they could be put into the labyrinth and fed to the Minotaur. So it's kind of she said that was one of her inspirations for
that, and like reality TV, right?
Yeah, I could definitely see a reality TV angle in there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this: first book, it's pretty good the movie's pretty good as far as trying to keep with the book, and the second one's not out, so I can't judge. But what makes me upset is the third book being two movies in the fashion of Twilight and Harry Potter and whatnot.
Or The Hobbit.
And why I'm so against this is because the first one is almost exclusively The Hunger Games, and the second book is supposed to be her life at first dealing with the Hunger Games, and then a second one showing up unexpectedly, and all the winners of previous Hunger Games. So I think one of the contestants is actually in her 70s.
Yeah, so in other words, the first book was like mainly action, and the second book was also seems to be pretty heavy on the action.
Yeah, the second half of it is Hunger Games. The third one technically has its fair share of action and like whatnot, but very much of the book is following Katniss and like just her inner monologue of her dealing with surviving two different Hunger Games where she actually has to murder people, and she's like 17 and 18, so like still not that old of a person, and being forced to kill and murder others, and just
so like a lot of it seems to be about like post-traumatic stress syndrome.
It very much so, and like there and like the book, like the final climax of the book is not the very end of it. There's still like a good like maybe fourth or probably I guess a sixth of the book left.
Like Lord of the Rings style.
Yeah, and
so what you're saying basically is that the third book is probably the least action packed and is the most about like her as a character.
Yeah, it's very much more character development than the other two, and like a lot more of its inner monologue. And I'm imagining what they're gonna do is they're just gonna pull a lot of things out of thin air. Like there's a whole bunch of fights at different districts, because the districts decide to once again wage war, and some side with the capital because they'll be safe, and it's one of those things. She's in a fight for, let's just say, District 5, and they win the fight, but she gets, like, severely hurt, and then she wakes up, and all the districts have been taken. And now they're gonna fight the final capital. So I imagine they're gonna just have a whole bunch of made-up, fights with all these other different districts, and they're just gonna create things completely out of thin air just to stretch it into 2 movies, because there's really not enough, unless they actually have her just, like, sitting in, like, she hides a lot in closets and just freaks out and runs through events in her mind and is just trying to deal with sort of living after all the things she's done. So I don't like that it's 2 movies.
Yeah. So back to the initial movie, The Hunger Games. One of the things that kind of surprised me was just the overall level of violence that was in that movie. I suppose that the movie is PG-13, so it wasn't like really graphic violence, but just like the amount of implied violence in it was like actually pretty surprising. Like, especially since several of the individuals involved were like little kids. So it
and
was.
they'll get slaughtered instantly.
Yeah, like there were, because some of the contestants vary in ages from like 18 to like 10 or something like that.
12.
12. So you basically see like 18-year-olds just like shanking little kids. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's pretty. It was a lot more intense in some places than I thought it was going to be.
The one thing that makes me sad after reading the book and seeing the movie, do you remember at the end where there's those giant wolf monsters?
Yeah, those like really weird looking dogs.
Yeah, what it is in the books, and it's no like big spoiler. She figures it out almost immediately by looking at their eyes.
I think by this point in time, like spoilers are
no.
You basically explain what happened in the 3rd book already. So.
Yeah, it's true. But this is one of the things that she has to wrestle with is that when they take away the dead bodies, they take them and they mutate them into horrible monsters. So each of those wolves are actually the dead contestants that were killed earlier in that Hunger Game. And so, like, she actually is seeing that the little girl...
Yeah, she's seeing some of her friends.
Yeah, she's seeing some of her friends as just cold-blooded monsters, and she realizes that's what happens to the contestants that lose, is they're turned into weapons to kill other people with.
That's terrible.
And so that's another thing that, like, haunts her through the books, is she can't get the images of, like, the people she knew turned into literal monsters.
Yeah. Alright. What do y'all think of the acting in it?
I liked it.
I liked it, although...
I thought Woody Harrelson was pretty cool in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He played, like, one of the past winners of the Hunger Games. It was kind of like the main character Katniss's coach.
Yeah, the only thing that just really wasn't working for me, like, there kind of was this, like, spark between her and her friend back at the district, but when she was with,
Peter.
Peta. When she was with Peta, like, they were supposed to have this, like, romance, and yeah, it was mostly there to get, like, favor and, like, sponsors. But even Peta, who actually likes Katniss, it never really, though acting there felt a little lackluster.
The two main characters didn't really have any chemistry. And yeah, it was supposed to be a lot of them faking it, but even so, it was
she was faking it. He was serious.
Yeah. In any event,
but
altogether though, I'd say it was, it was a well put together movie. There were some really cool visuals in it.
And the book's good too.
And yeah, I mean, the book has some good ideas. Like I said, like it does have some pretty obvious similarities to things like Battle Royale, but at the same time, Battle Royale in a lot of ways was not about characters. It was more about like a high concept. And so much of Battle Royale, especially the book, was just, we will introduce a character, give their life story,
And kill them.
and then kill them, like, really brutally. Whereas, Hunger Games was much more about like the actual characters and what they were going through in the situation. So it's significantly different, and I would recommend it.
Yeah, I definitely say you should see the movie if you haven't.
Yeah,
I
as
doubt you
what I.
haven't. Everyone in the flipping world's seen that movie.
Oh well, yeah, there is that too. I mean, the movie like made like a truckload of money, so I'm sure that chances are really good that the most of y'all have seen it already. But in case you haven't, go watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Roll that dice.
All right. Okay.
We should just give you the next one, Mike. So, Kyle's looking for his list.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Diablo 3.
Diablo bad. No, I'm just checking.
Yes, but
seriously.
Diablo 3. So I imagine everyone knows, but
You don't have to explain what Diablo 3 is. It's fucking cute.
well, I'm just gonna say computer game created by Blizzard.
Okay, yeah.
Third installment.
StarCraft?
Sort
And basically, I'm a huge Diablo fan. I just like those kind of games. I like Borderlands. I like Diablo. I like Torchlight. I liked a game called Titan's Quest. Baldur's Gate kind of games to a degree.
Kyle's a big boner for those type of games.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoy the item hunt and just that style of play. But
So what do you want to talk about as far as...
Yeah, I also am pretty fond of Diablo 3. I actually have, I played the original Diablo when I was in high school, and Diablo 2 as well. I even played the really horrible, like, knockoff, like, the pretty terrible, like, add-on for Diablo 1 where...
oh yeah, the third-party expansion.
Oh my god, the expansion by Sierra, which was horrible.
Couldn't they just add one class?
They added
two.
no, they only added the monk,
Oh,
but
that's right.
they were in the game code. They added barbarian and bard, but you couldn't actually play them.
That's true.
And
What? That doesn't make any sense, though.
well, they were unfinished. They had them in there, but they weren't balanced in any meaningful way. And yeah, so I played that, and then I played Diablo 2 a lot. But I'm also a fan of those kind of
Point and click,
wander around a dungeon and fight hordes of monsters games. But
what's your opinion on it?
Yeah.
Diablo 3 was my first romp in that sort of craziness. I mean, I kind of played Diablo 1. I got as far as the butcher. Could not kill him. So I got...
Were you playing the Amazon?
I
mean, the rogue?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the bonus.
That's why.
Oh my
The
god.
rogue is terrible.
I was so mad because he, like...
Like, seriously, Diablo 1 is basically set up in such a way that the only class
warrior.
that's feasible is the warrior.
It just bugged me so much because, this sound haunts me. The sound haunts me where it's like, whenever it hit you. And it bugged me forever. Oh my god, I was so mad. But yeah, so I kind of played that game. But then I got, into Diablo 3 when it came out. Played with all my friends. Got my 60 Paragon level 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
But, those kind of games don't have stomping power with me. It's just not...
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I like playing them, but it's the type of game where I'll play it, pretty hard for, a couple days, and then I'll kind of go, oh, okay, well, this was Diablo again. It was fun to go fight monsters and to go through the game and see the story and kill the bosses, but for me, there's not a lot to really keep me
The
playing.
staying power.
Yeah, there's not a lot of staying power with those type of games.
For me, I still am playing. I take breaks right now
Kyle's
because
in denial.
um,
I'm joking.
I kind of what's happening right now is I play and experience a new patch, and then my playing dwindles to a little bit each week, and then as a patch starts to come back, I get back into it. Then a patch comes, I play hard, and then I dwindle to a low, steady amount through the weeks. And basically, to break a few things down, the game, the analogy was used by David today that you kind of had a sugar rush when you played it. It was so exciting, you just ignored a lot of the flaws, and the game was finally out. And the longer you played it when you're at the end, the more you recognize the huge flaws, which a lot of games have flaws, but this game,
given its time frame.
Yeah, given the time frame in which they announced it and how much time they had and the budget that Blizzard has, they dropped the ball. They are rectifying a lot of their mistakes with each patch. Some people get butthurt because they basically fix a bug in the game that people are exploiting, and then they try to compensate in other ways. Makes a lot of people upset. And, the next patch coming out is really, really improving items. At least on paper, it seems that way. I can't say because there's no patch yet. But the one area that makes me really sad that they can't fix is the story. I don't necessarily have to have, the greatest, most epic, great story. Yes, I used great twice.
Great things are pretty awesome.
Yes, but really, the story was so just by the numbers, no surprise, you could have just had no story, and it would have just been as good as it is, really.
Yeah. I felt really kind of let down when I realized what I had just played. I thought that the Belial thing was so, handed wrong. He's supposed to be, the Lord of Lies. And even your character realizes he's the prince or whatever, and then it's well, okay, what a great surprise.
Yeah, he's the guy that likes to basically alter the world around you. So, as you're going through, when you're at, the pinnacle of an important moment, he just shatters your reality. And playing through, you almost immediately figure out who he is, or at least all of us did, and your character in-game realizes who he is. So when he reveals himself, it's whoop-de-doo.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you just beat him up just regular, just like he's some bigger demon. You'd think that some dude who's supposed to be the personification of lies, that there'd be some weird gimmick battle or something, but nope, it was just straightforward. He's hanging out here in the middle of a room and you pound on him.
Yeah.
Which, kind of is par for the course for that type of game, but it was still kind of...
But this is Diablo. This is Blizzard more than anything. They should have some kind of craziness.
Yeah, kind of, except Blizzard kind of plays it safe.
That's true.
They're really good at, creating, a franchise and making it, they're really good at, kind of starting up, a genre or popularizing one that already exists by making, the
best
version of it. But they kind of, they're not really good at, improving, on existing things. If you look at it, it's, well, you mentioned the story. Well, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of my view on it, where, well, also, as far as the story, none of the Diablo games really had a very good story.
That's true.
I mean, they do have, an interesting story when you, actually sit back and, have someone explain, the events that happened to you. It seems really interesting, but when you're actually playing the game, you don't really get that.
Okay, I will agree with that 100%. Diablo 2, the story, I honestly, I played the game once, and I didn't even fully pay attention to the story, and it wasn't until I, think back at what was actually happening that it was really cool and exciting. Diablo 3, though, you can't just go back to an old area and beat a boss. You have to actually restart quests, so you're constantly re-seeing the story over and over and over, and it tries to make you so much more involved, and it's so much bigger and in your face that you can't ignore it.
Yeah, but at the same time, Diablo, those type of games, those point and click games, are just basically there to run from area to area killing monsters.
Yeah.
They're not set up in such a way that they are a heavily story driven game. A story would be nice, but at the same time, that's kind of not the point of those games.
I recognize that. I'm just saying, they talk at you there's always dialogue, and the story's always in your face that you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Diablo 2, you can skip the cinematics, you can skip the only time there's dialogue for stories and you go to town to activate or turn in a quest.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the Diablo games, like I said, they have like a really gripping story when you piece it all together and like have someone condense it for you. But within the game itself, when you play it, just doesn't come across nearly as like big.
Yeah.
Oh, the one cool thing I will say that is new to point and clicks that I like, although it has a way to go, is you get every skill with every character, and then you choose a rune to try to personalize a skill. I like that system, but right now it's kind of lackluster where you have a skill that just shoots a fireball. There's a skill that shoots 10 fireballs for the same damage, or a skill that fireball costs 1 less mana and it costs 100 normally, or it travels 0.1% faster, or has
These are just examples.
Yeah, I mean, really exaggerated. But
Yeah, the whole like
there's a best one.
Yeah, and it also kind of falls into like a lot of the problem where like a lot of the beneficial skills or abilities that will proc will only have like a really, really tiny chance to like go off. Like you or the effect will be so minimal where, like you said, like an ability will cost 100 mana and then like you can modify it so it costs 5 mana less.
Yeah,
like really, when it's all said and done, that is such a negligible amount.
Yeah, there's actually a skill with one of my characters costs 140 mana, and if you take every item you can to like 3 different items that reduce its mana cost, you can bring it from 140 to 128 with 3 perfect rolls on 3 items.
Yeah.
That's badass.
Yeah, I know.
Totally. Yeah. So just, I know you really like this game, and when you're talking about, not just you, but just in general, I find that when you talk about things that you really like, rather than sit there and like say, yeah, it was fucking rad! Don't you remember when this happened, and this happened, and this happened? You know, rather than like talk about the good things about like a thing that you really like, it's way easier to talk about
focus
the bad
on the
things.
negatives.
Do you want me to talk about Halo? I can talk about Halo.
No, we'll talk about Halo later.
But no, I mean...
So, why don't you talk about some of the things that you like about Diablo that you feel...
I'm a little sad in this respect, but at the same time, it's still awesome that there's different tiers of armor, so as you go through the game, you get different armor sets.
Yeah,
so your character does continually look different. What makes me sad is just I wish sometimes there was a way to just visually change to some of the earlier aspects, because there's really cool armor sets that you just, at that point in the game, you go through it so fast that you only get to see these armor sets maybe for like 20, 30 minutes, and other ones at the end of the game you'll be seeing for dozens of hours.
Yeah, they did a really good job of making like the armor and the weapons look different and interesting, you know. So each of the classes really has like a different look to them, and I thought that was like really good. Like you can immediately tell which class is which based on just the shape of their armor. Like,
yeah. And like I said, the runes kind of drop at the end of the game, where the game's supposed to be difficult and you have to really kind of make sure you're doing the best. But along the way, I do like, at any given time you're playing like a witch doctor, and you're like, you know, I just really am tired of using the skill. You can change a rune on it, maybe change it around a little, or you can completely change a skill so you can keep your character fresh and exciting for yourself. Or if you're a monk and you're playing with a party, you might change so you have some healing moves to help your friends. Whereas if you're playing by yourself, you'll play differently. And, you know, I think there's a pretty, like, good variety of how monsters work in it. I like the areas. They look really cool. I mean, the game has some really great things to it.
It's a really nice looking game. I'll admit that. And the effects look really good. Like it, you know, it plays real smooth. Like when you're fighting whole hordes of guys, it just effortlessly goes. You did mention the Witch Doctor. I just want to bring up that I still am kind of, that even from the beginning I was like really iffy on, and I still kind of am, just because it's like, they're fucking witch doctors, and they're like the black people in the game.
Yeah.
And they, they fucking wear grass skirts, and like they might as well have bones through their noses. They're just like fucking.
They do.
Oh, they do. Great. They're like fucking like African stereotype savages. I understand that they've tried to build up like a culture and stuff around for them, but you like look at it, and it's like all the other dudes are like rocking like these fake ass like European stuff where they're like wearing metal armor and like living in stone houses and are all like modern, and then like the witch doctor show up and they're like, hey man, I've got this shrunken head and like fucking I'm gonna throw toads
back
at
to
you.
my
and here's another interesting thing just to go within the Diablo lore. Yeah, that's how witch doctors are. The paladin, which is a really well-known class from Diablo 2, was the black character. Well, it turns out, if you read the lore, the witch doctors and the paladins come from the exact same area. So you have armored holy men who like use like basically the power of God on their side to fight the forces of evil. And then you have
these dudes who are like really bad voodoo stereotypes. It's just kind of like,
and they come from the exact same area.
Oh my god, I was just like, you seriously could have done this differently. Like, why couldn't you have made like, why is it that the only black dudes are going to be like these dudes who come from the jungle and like are crazy like voodoo dudes? It's just like,
yeah, I mean, I can understand in that respect that in Diablo 2 they already established that is kind of where, like, so be it that black people come from the jungle area, the marshlands. But
nice catch, by the way.
How does it go? You have these like really knowledgeable, heavy armored, huge tower shield, sword wielding guys, and then people in grass skirts with shrunken heads.
Yeah, it was I think pretty poor choice on their part to do that.
I'll just interject with my favorite part of the game was playing with my friends, like when we did that party, whatever. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That is definitely something that I recommend is the game gets way better if you're playing with other people.
Yeah.
I mean, it plays fine on its own, but
the more people, the better.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I've found co-op experiences in general are better played first time, because the second time you play it through, like, say I've played a game that you haven't played yet, I'm gonna be running around doing all this crazy stuff, and you're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just making sure we can beat the level.
Yeah, someone, like, it's like, oh, I already know this trap's coming up, so one of you runs off and goes and gets ready for this, like, scripted trap, and the other person is just, like, wondering what they're doing. All of a sudden, the trap happens. Person who's prepared for it makes it super easy, and it just kind of destroys a little bit of the experience.
Yeah, the magic is lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good game, and like I said, like it looks really good. Like, it didn't have like super cutting edge graphics, but you know what?
They still look really good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It still looks great, and like the character designs are really solid, and the monster and the bosses look fucking rad too. So
yeah,
it's and
the voice
good.
acting's good in it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Like, just overall, like I said, I have that issue with the witch doctor class, but
he does not sound like he does not look like that voice fits him. Like his voice is very calm and soothing, but he's like jittering.
He's like some weird shaken dude.
Yeah, the girl works better because she does move, but she doesn't twitch.
Yeah.
Anyway, new dice roll?
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
So that was Diablo.
Or like, Mike, you just take this one. You take it. And we got
Alright, we're gonna talk about navel. And by navel I mean Dracola.
I don't know what that is.
Neville on bottom.
No, we're gonna talk about Dracula. And vampires in general.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna come right out here and say this. As a kid, I was super duper into vampires. I read all the books and everything, and I read tons of books on vampires. And I think that they're a really interesting idea. And, I mean, now, vampires are pretty ubiquitous. It's, there's tons of shows that are specifically about them, like Vampire Diaries or True Blood or what have you.
I actually like True Blood. Except for, I like the first season of True Blood.
I liked the first season of True Blood. The second season was like dog shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was like dog shit on top of dog shit.
Oh, the second season, it was like, so True Blood comes, I think, in 10 episode, like, seasons, and it was like
10 or 12.
Something like that, but whatever it was definitely like twice as long as it needed to be because they kept inventing like subplots and just expanding them out, and the subplots went nowhere, and it was just boring. But so vampires are like really kind of, they've moved into the consciousness, and another symbol of that is the fairly reviled Twilight books, which they
receive a lot of flack.
They
not
do.
That I'm like a huge Twilight fan. I feel like they don't deserve all the shit they get.
I think that they do, but not for the reasons that people usually throw at them.
What are the reasons you think?
Well, okay. People usually, one of the things that people usually say when they're talking about fucking, Twilight about Twilight is they talk about how lame the vampires are.
I think the vampires are kind of
because man, they sparkle and they can walk around in the daytime, and
but they're like made out of rock.
Yeah, well,
they're sparkly rock golems.
The movies make it pretty clear that they like might as well be made out of rock because they get like decapitated and ripped to pieces pretty often.
And there's like crystals under every time they get.
In any event, my issue with that is that it's like, so fucking what? Here's my criteria for a vampire.
Sucks blood.
Are they dead? Do they suck blood? And the answer to both of those is yes. So I'm like, well, they're a vampire. Because the whole walk around the sun thing, Dracula walked around in the motherfucking sun.
But he was as strong as a regular.
Yeah, I mean, he lost his magic powers when he was out in the sun, but the sun didn't kill him. So it's like, vampires, that is not like an issue, that's not like a necessary thing. In any event, there are so many weird types of vampires around that it's like, the ones in Twilight look positively normal. I mean, there's like Malaysian ones where all that they are like heads that float around with their intestines trailing from them. There were so many just strange types of like regional vampires that like really the Twilight ones just
are not that obscure.
No, they're not even that strange. Like I just am kind of like, whatever. I mean, they're goofy. The whole like sparkling thing is goofy, but at the same time, I don't think it's any stupider than, like I said, like the vampires in like say Interview with the Vampire, where they have fingernails made out of glass. Or
I've never seen that movie.
Or the ones in True Blood where they like burst into flames when they even touch silver. Or like
no, when they touch silver they can't move.
No, but they also start smoking.
Like there's a point when somebody puts like a silver
I know
necklace.
they like chain them down with silver, but like they're. I really, like, as far as the vampires in those books / movies are concerned, like, the fact that they sparkle and that they can walk around the sun, I'm just like, whatever. The main reason the main issue that I have with those books is kind of like the underlying, like, moral, like, themes that are present in them. Which are...
allow yourself to be abused by a man.
No, it's not even that. It's just like, they are so just insanely, like, about abstinence that it's not even funny.
Well, like...
Where it's like, vampirism is basically like a stand-in for sex. Where it's like, Bella, like Edward says, no, I will not turn you into a vampire until we are married. And I'm doing this because I want to... And it just becomes this weird thing where he like turns it back on her and like says, no, you're like some sex obsessed weirdo and I'm trying to save you from yourself by making you marry me before I turn you into a vampire.
Oh.
And because Bella's all like, please turn me into a vampire. It's like, no, because then I'd be risking your immortal soul. We must get married first.
And then you can...
And then
your soul would be immortal?
It's really fucking dumb.
Because that sounds stupid to me still.
Yeah, in any event.
Wait, does that mean the guy who turned him, like, basically had gay butt sex or something?
Well, no, because
he turned him when he was dying.
No, because it's not like you have to have sex to be turned into a vampire. It's just
you're saying vampirism is in place of like sex. So like,
well, no, they also have like actual proper sex.
No, I know, but like think about. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a fan fiction in there, maybe.
Oh my god.
But you know, so there's that, which you know is kind of a that's like a pretty major issue where, you know, you're like really just strangely like talking about like abstinence, which, you know, I don't have like any issue with like people abstaining from sex, but like doing this strange like coded way like that is just like really, really weird. And the other issue about it is that once they finally do get married and, you know, he turns into a vampire and then, you know, of course, then they have sex in addition to that, then she gets pregnant. But then because...
No, she gets turned into a vampire while she's pregnant.
Oh yeah, you're right. But the issue with it is that it's like, now that abstinence is no longer an issue because they're married, then it becomes all pro-life. Because the moment that she turns into a vampire, she is able to like hear the thoughts of her unborn fetus child, which is telling her not to kill, you know, which is talking to her. And even when Bella's vampire monster baby is going to kill her because of its super strong, like, fetal thrashing, you know, the others are like, man, Bella, we need to kill your monster baby because otherwise it's going to kill you. And she's like, no, my baby is alive. It's an alive person. You can't do it, even though it's endangering my life. I must carry this creature to term, even though I might die, because my unborn baby is so much more important than me. So it just becomes this weird, like, pro-life thing.
How's she gonna die? She's a flipping vampire.
I don't know.
What are you gonna do, bleed out?
Who knows? It's, you know, and then there's that weird thing where after she has the baby, then, like, her werewolf friend, like, imprints on it, which basically is, like, him going, I'm gonna have sex with your baby.
Yeah.
Although, you know, then they have to have, like, a loophole where, like, the monster baby, like, super ages.
He even says it's not a sexual thing.
Right.
No, I'm just saying, like, I
know, they have to go out of their way to mention it, because it's so fucking creepy. It's like, hey, little girl, I totally had the hots for your mom, but now I guess you'll have to settle. I'll have to settle for you.
So, other vampires.
Anyway, so...
I like Underworld.
Yeah, the Underworld vampires are interesting, but they're kind of like a symptom of the True Blood style vampires, where they're like too cool for school, and they just hang out and are like, man, we're these awesome, hot, immortal guys, because heaven forbid that any vampires are gonna be some ugly motherfuckers. They're all like...
No, all the ugly ones are like it.
Yeah, exactly. All the ugly ones are fucking werewolves. You know, all the vampires, though, are all like super hotties who just hang out like on their own and wear black leather and just live in their castle. And it's just like, this is weird.
Built a castle in North America, by the way?
I don't know. Well, the other thing I was thinking, it's like, so, you know, you've gotten into arguments with friends, right?
No. Yes, of course I have.
Yeah, you have. And have those arguments ever gone to the point where, you know, you really don't end up seeing them again? You kind of
like ever again?
Yeah.
I mean...
Or like family, you know, or like people, you know, you've met people who just annoy you.
Yes. Yes.
And, well...
Looking at you, guy I work with.
Yeah, well, think of how bad it would be if you're like a fucking vampire and you're living with like 6 other dudes in a house for like all eternity. Aren't those other 6 dudes gonna get on your nerves like nobody's business?
Yeah, it's called living at the Barlows.
Oh!
I'm just joking, Andy and Val.
So, you know, it's just weird. Like the whole like vampires being super gregarious it's never really worked for me because, you know, just because your like body doesn't stay old, your mind's still gonna be changing.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you have your own interests.
Well, isn't that kind of her whole deal though? She starts to get like fed up with everyone around her, and she's like, "Screw this shit, I'm out."
Who, Bella?
No, in Underworld.
Oh, in Underworld.
Wait, are we still on?
No,
Twilight?
we're talking about Underworld now.
I goes okay.
No, yeah, she kind of did. But the other thing about the werewolves, the vampires in Twilight. God damn it! I need to stop talking about Twilight. The other thing about the vampires in Underworld
Mike's been drinking.
is that I have been drinking a little. Yes, the vampires in Underworld are huge wimps.
Yeah, they kind of are.
Yeah.
Well, they also have like no like depth perception either. Like when she's got that gun, she's like hosing the entire hallway with her silver bullets or whatever.
Yeah.
Like those Lycans are like, yeah, and you missed.
Yeah.
Good job.
I don't know. You know, those vampires are they're kind of like the vampires in Blade, where ever since like Interview with the Vampire and like Anne Rice and that whole series of books in the 70s, vampires have been getting progressively less impressive. So now they're trying to like make them make sense. It's like the weird thing where people always insist on like saying that zombie infestations are due to like diseases rather than just like completely chalking up to magic, despite the fact that they are perpetual motion machines that can move around without any energy indefinitely.
Photosynthesis.
Oh, fuck that. Humans are not photosynthetic.
No, I'm joking.
Yeah, so like vampires are the same way, where they're like, it's a virus, and the virus is spread by getting bit. But somehow this virus, like, once again, is like perpetual motion, where your body never falls apart, never decays.
Well, in that, like, I like Walking Dead up until a point. Like, the last 2 episodes of the first season, whatever, if you ignore those, like, you can keep it that way where you don't know what it is. Sorry, I just got really awkward with your leg right there.
Yeah.
But you don't have to, like, put an explanation behind it, or, like, any of the George A. Romero movies, they never say it's a disease. They never say anything. Yeah. It's just, they're Walking Dead.
Yeah, right.
Zombies.
But,
yeah, there's no explanation.
Yeah, in any event, with vampires, so it's kind of gotten to the point where vampires, all they are like immortal dudes who are tough to kill and are strong.
And pretty.
Strong and pretty and fast. And so all the, like, weird supernatural stuff has just, like, gone out the window, and vampires have just become kind of boring now.
You know, just because you said supernatural vampires suck. And I'm talking about the show.
No, I've never seen the show.
They're so terribly stupid. Just, that's all I want to say.
Okay.
They're like bees.
Weird. So, yeah, vampires are, I kind of, I prefer, like, the type like Dracula, where they're, like, like, you can shape change and control the weather and do all sorts of weird, crazy shit. And, he's overtly magical. Like, to me, that's, like, way more interesting than just, like, some, like,
right, you
super
like,
strong guy.
You like your fantasy things to continue to be fantasy and your sci-fi things to be sci-fi. You don't like fantasy stuff to be...
Yeah, it's like, if the vampires on, like, Underworld might as well be robots. They might as well be Terminators.
With really bad accuracy.
Yeah, they have worse accuracy.
Well...
In the first movie they did.
Yeah.
I know. There's that part where those 2 werewolves are running along the walls and she misses both of them.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Where she just, like, because she's got the 2 PMAX and it's just like,
There's also
I
a
miss
scene
every shot.
that's during, like, the final, like, fight of the movie. Like, a werewolf runs at, like, 6 vampires who have guns and they all miss.
Yeah.
And the werewolf proceeds to kill all of them.
God, they suck.
And werewolves in that are, like, 12 feet tall. And
werewolves in that are, like, so ridiculously powerful it's not even funny. Like, there's that one scene where, like, one of the 3 oldest vampires and her whole entourage are killed by 2 werewolves.
That's true.
I guess what you're supposed to take away from that is that werewolves, when they're in werewolf form, are, like, super powered, but otherwise they're just chumps.
Ugly motherfuckers.
Yeah, they're just ugly sewer dwellers.
Yeah.
They're chuds.
Chuds, goddamn chuds. Cannibalistic humanoid underground dweller.
Oh, you do remember.
Of course I do. I've seen it like 5 times against my will.
How have you seen it that many times? I've only seen it like twice.
I don't understand how you supposedly have seen Zardoz 3 times.
I've seen it twice.
That's as many times as I've seen that fucking movie.
Oh, really?
And I hadn't seen it since high school.
Eric Ball and Aaron and a lot of them loved that movie, so they watched it multiple times, and I watched it twice with them.
The gun is good, the penis is bad. The penis fires life into the barren earth, which causes poison.
What?
And the gun purifies the earth.
But yes, no, I just saw that because while I was in high school, Eric would watch that with his friends, and I would just end up
Seeing it.
because I didn't have anything better to do.
Yeah. Anyway, so I think vampires are cool, but I think that they need
a break.
Well, they need a break, one, and second of all, they need to be more like monsters, and less like just pretty super. Basically they're like the X-Men almost right now.
Oh.
They're basically like superheroes, so they all have these like ridiculously hot bodies and just have like generic superpowers and run around. And I want to see some like ugly ass like fuck like in Nosferatu where he's bald and has rat teeth and big claws
And weird ears.
Yeah.
He's like an elf.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if any of you have not seen Shadow of the Vampire, see that. That movie is off the hook. It's about the making. It's like a fictionalized story about the making of the old silent era movie Nosferatu, and Willem Dafoe plays the vampire, and he's like creepy as fuck. And John Malkovich is in it. And he's pretty good.
Another good like vampire movie that I can think of is I hope I said the right one. Let the Right One In.
Oh yeah, Let the Right One In.
That's the German one.
Yeah. Well, it's
there's
Swedish or whatever.
Yeah, that like I like both the English or the American and the Swedish one.
The American one was okay. It was just one of those really strange remakes that is completely unnecessary because it was almost
A year.
scene for scene.
It wasn't even that old of a movie, but
it was like an almost scene for scene remake of the European.
The European one though, the kid is so much more likable in a way. Like you feel bad for him, whereas the American one, you like the little girl, but that's about where the liking of characters ends.
Yeah.
Mainly because it's that kick-ass girl.
You're
like, you can kill people.
It's Hit Girl as a vampire.
Yeah. Anyway, that's just my opinion, my 2 cents.
Yeah. Totally though. I suggest watching Shadow of the Vampire and Let the Right One In. Either version's good, but I would go for the foreign language one.
Yeah.
Before the American.
Want to roll the dice again?
Sure. So it's me again.
Oh, well, Mike finally got a dice roll.
I did.
The last one was given to him.
And we're going to talk about comedy movies.
Comedy movies.
So what are your favorite comedic movies?
Well, that's kind of on the spot.
Well, what's one that you like then, David?
One that I like, 300.
300 is a pretty funny movie, but strictly speaking, it's not a comedy.
Yeah, I like Superbad. I like, what is that one? Hangover? I like Hangover.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with that one for God knows how long. I watched it like 50 times.
Oh, what do you like about Hangover?
It's just funny. I also am a big fan of Zach Galifianakis. That guy is a funny fucker.
Which one's he?
He's the bearded weirdo.
Okay.
Like, everything, like, his stand-up's hilarious. He's been on multiple Adult Swim shows. He's like one of those people that I'm just like, I wish you would do more things because you're so funny.
I see.
That's how I feel about him.
Okay.
Well, obviously, I mean, when I introduced myself last time, I talked about the whole 9 yards, but I'm gonna kind of bring up 2 movies because they both have John Heater, but that's Napoleon Dynamite and Blades of Glory.
Oh yeah, I really like Blades of Glory.
Yeah. I mean, the main reason I like Napoleon Dynamite, I knew someone kinda like that, and so it was just kind of amusing to see basically a movie about this weird person I knew. But I just like it because it's just, there's no real plot, because a lot of times comedy movies are really funny for the first half and then plot heavy the second half.
Yeah, they'll have like a really high concept where like all the jokes will be about that. So like, for instance, Bruce Almighty, the first half of it is like Jim Carrey gets like the powers of God and is just like running amok. And then like the second half is not funny because it's all about him having to like fix all the bad stuff he'd done in the first half.
That was for comedic value, yeah. Whereas Napoleon Dynamite, well, it has no real story. It has some events going on, but it's just there for just funny, awkward scenes and quotable things, which is why I like it. And the reason I like Blades of Glory is, yeah, it does have its overarching story, but it never gets too heavy into it and keeps it very lighthearted, fun. And it's Will Ferrell and John Heater, who is Napoleon Dynamite. And they have just really great chemistry, and they're in a team of two males in paired figure skating, and they just, one of the ways they keep it from being too serious is they just completely make fun of paired figure skating and figure skating in general. And so even if like it's them trying to like win the gold, like it's still, they've been making fun of what they're trying to get the gold for through the whole movie, and it's just, it's really clever.
Times.
It's good times, it's clever, and it's got a really good solid cast in it.
Okay. I'm gonna go with, like I said, my favorite movie is Ghostbusters, which is a comedy, but I kind of explained why I liked that previously. So I will, I'll mention Dumb and Dumber.
No!
I love that.
I love Dumb and Dumber,
God
but
damn it.
David hates it for some inexplicable reason.
I hate it because everyone loves it.
Yeah, and
That's literally my only reason.
the best part is, I'm sure if he watched it by himself, he'd actually probably love the movie, but he'd forever still have to tell people he hated it, just so people couldn't say, I told you so.
That's 100% true.
Yeah. I like it. It has, Jim Carrey and who's the other guy?
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels. And they play two, like, really stupid people who,
Our best friends.
who are best friends and who get into adventures, and so much of it is just, like, the two of them just behaving in, like, really strange, stupid ways.
Yeah.
And just, eventually it kind of gets down to the two of them trying to, like, get revenge on each other and avoid bad guys, and it's full of just, like, really strange, like, behavior.
Yeah, and they're both, like, two man-children. Like, they both, like, there's a joke early on, like, how, like, they keep turning down these jobs because who wants to work 40 hours a week? And...
Oh my god, that's like my life.
Except you don't even work 40 hours.
I know, because I don't want to work 40 hours.
I work 40 hours and it sucks balls.
I hate working.
No.
God!
But, like, you know, a lot of people and their little kids, they'll have, like, fantasies of how, like, they were super awesome and cool. How events would unfold.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where Jim Carrey basically passes out while driving. And it's this extended scene where he's really badass at martial arts. But of course it all looks really stupid because he doesn't know what to actually imagine. So he's doing the dumbest martial arts possible.
Yeah.
That are impossible. And so yeah, no, it's great. All the things they think are awesome are totally things little kids would think are awesome.
Yeah, so, like, later they buy, like, tuxedos, and one of them is, like, a bright orange tuxedo, and the other one is, like,
powder blue,
and they're just, like, completely hideous, but, like,
they think it's awesome.
They think that they're awesome colors, and so it's just about two guys who are just, like, completely goons.
Yeah, that's a wonderful comedy.
Yeah, I really like that. The other movie I like is Bowfinger.
Oh,
Bowfinger is super funny.
I was actually thinking of that movie today.
Yeah, Bowfinger is really funny. It's one where Eddie Murphy is actually funny, as opposed to
90%.
many of the movies where Eddie Murphy is not funny.
Yeah, it's
and
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin plays like a movie producer who's kind of on the level of Ed Wood, who wants to make like a science fiction movie, and it's all about him like scamming people and just trying to make a movie starring the hottest actor around, but he instead gets like a guy who looks like the actor.
And here's the best part. It still falls under the Eddie Murphy rule that Eddie Murphy plays multiple characters. Eddie Murphy's playing both the hottest, like, movie actor out there, and this, like, little nerdy guy who has braces and glasses and just wants to, like, be a gopher and go get coffee and whatnot.
Yeah, it's really funny, because it's just about, like, a bunch of con men, like, trying to make a movie, and
They're like filming things around a guy.
yeah, it's just about them, like, filming a movie around a dude. So, you know, and then everyone is tricking everyone else, and it's just really funny and well put together.
It is quite hilarious.
But yeah, well, we've talked a while, so I think we'll call it quits for now.
Yeah.
Alright, so, cottage cheese.
What?
That was my sign off.
Cottage cheese.
Wait, no, I thought it was...
Yeah, it was cottage cheese.
Was it cottage cheese?
It was totally cottage cheese.
I thought it was something else equally gross.
Maybe cinnamon bun? No.
No.
Cinnamon bun.
No, I bet if you listen,
Cottage cheese is sick.
yeah. But anyways, he has apparently to sign off cottage cheese.
Oh, no, here's one. Here's a better one. Check, please.
Damn it.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, anyways, hope you enjoyed it, and we're starting to get a little
Fuck
more...
you, San Francisco.
No, isn't it San Diego?
San Diego, you too.
Fuck you, San Diego.
Fuck all those areas.
Fuck you,